Hey everyone, welcome back once again with Ermac, where today we're going to continue our playthrough of Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, and as you can see, not Scorpion, but we are playing as Smoke. Are you smoking yet? As you can see, last episode we did the Wuxi Academy because, Outworld attacked and, disrespected the rules of Mortal Kombat. They disobeyed them, really, and, Baraka and his Tarkatan forces attacked the Wuxi Academy, and, then we had to kick their asses, take them back out, and now we have to take the fight to them in Outworld. And this is a portal directly leading to that, as you can tell. It's a good thing we have Ray in here for us, as if we had jumped through that in the first place, we would have been pulled inside out. I don't really know what the hell he actually did to it. He just kind of shot some lightning into it, but this game is so weird. Like, they don't really explain, like, why that would have happened. It never gets brought up again. It's no issue with any other kind of portals. Why would we have been pulled inside out? Like, it's such a weird detail to add in this game and stuff like that to the lore, but man, even the portal, man, I mean, I've gushed like every episode about how awesome this whole thing is with, all the mechanics, the characters, the stories, the motivations, the areas, mechanics, stuff like that, just everything about Mortal Kombat 2 just fits so perfectly with what they were trying to do with this game. It's so smooth. Like, it doesn't even seem like anything's forced or anything like that. It's just such an amazing game. That's why Shaolin Monks is such an amazing game. It's just everything makes so much sense. Imagine. Plus, I mean, I love the PS2 era around this time too. I love the campy, stupid storyline, like the voice actings and stuff like that. It's just too good, man. That's one of the best things I love coming back here. Is I love the geekiness of the old Mortal Kombat. That it feels like they don't really have that as much anymore. And we're just gonna skip past these guys. I don't feel like dealing with their horse shit this time. Speaking of horse shit, we got Katana here. Evil Monastery, obviously based off of the Evil Tower. And like I said, man, just taking these kind of basic 2D areas and making entire levels out of them, and they look beautiful. The architecture in this level and especially is really great. The music is amazing. 3D era music, like I said, a lot of it was kind of generic and not the best, but I mean, some of the tracks in Armageddon are just so great, so good for the atmosphere. It feels like in the modern games, and it's not really their fault, it's just, the tracks kind of, they don't really pop as much as they did back in the old days, I feel like. And a big part of that is because you're just kind of so focused on the fighting and stuff like that. And the areas themselves, I think, have kind of become secondary, when, like, a lot of times the areas around early Mortal Kombat just stood out so much. With the architecture, the fatalities, the designs, and a little bit of the simpleness of it all, too, when you really think about it. They didn't really have to, it's just kind of a basic concept or idea, The pit, for example, it's just you're fighting on some bridge above a bed of spikes. There's not really too much to it. The background really is just, the night sky and stuff like that, but it's just such an interesting concept, especially for the time and stuff like that, being able to do the fatality after the fact. Stage fatalities are kind of almost like non-existent at this point. Alright, I don't even know what the hell was about to happen with that. Smoke was erupting into flames. Here comes one of the most annoying parts in the game. Hopefully I can... Yeah, see, like... It's like that you're fighting a wall when you're trying to throw these guys on there. And of course, these stupid fucking archers are always kind of trying to run. God damn it. And then whenever I try and throw them, they either... If it's like Liu Kang's throw, like they hit the wall. If it's Kung Lao's throw, if they're not in the right spot, they'll just flip right over. And I don't know, like, as much as I love this game, the controls in certain instances, like when you want to throw a direction, aren't always the most responsive, and I wish this guy would get that. Usually these enemies are on your ass. This time I can't have to stay on their ass. And of course that throw is not going to work because it's just going to go right by him. I think it can, actually. It's just... And you can't really get them from above because then you can't see where you're throwing them or anything like that. But even this song, I mean, this one's kind of a jam, I'm not going to lie, when you're fighting these guys. That's a jam. Let's just take care of this fool. And I think these guys kind of just endlessly respawn. Okay, yeah, I'm not going back down there. Unless it was by accident. It's kind of an interesting take of the princess on the top of the tower. I can't even... Trope, that's what it is. The princess at the top of the tower trope. You know, the evil princess, she's goading you on. She's doesn't need to be saved from anything. She does, but... You know, it's kind of a different thing. There's no dragon that we're gonna fight. Goodness. Come on, get on him. There we go. Music for Armageddon and Deception are awesome too. The arcade character select song from Deception's awesome. I love the kind of vibe they had for the music. I can't even describe it, but like, you know, I love like the Red Dragon kind of vibe stuff they have, where like they have like the girl doing the chanting and the yelling and stuff like that. I'm gonna put it in the end cards for some of these videos so you can get a little bit of that stuff. But man, I don't know, I love it. I love that. I mean, I just miss everything about this kind of era. It's not nostalgia. I just literally love this kind of stuff. And you know, I can understand. You know, things need to evolve, things change, and stuff like that. And you know, obviously, this era, I think everybody kind of unanimously loves Shaolin monks for the most part. Anybody who's played it anyway. But obviously, I think the 3D era. It's funny because my brother was talking to me the other day because he's a huge Armageddon fan, and you know, he has been for the longest time, and he doesn't really get on the internet that often to check these things out. You know, like he'll look up Switch stuff because that's kind of like, you know, what he's into, and Arlo and stuff like that. But you know, he's like a big fan of the 3D era, Armageddon in particular, and he loved Deception's Conquest mode just like me and stuff like that. And he was surprised when I think he went on like the internet and he found out that like most people hate the 3D era, and more people hate Armageddon too. And I don't know, I love Armageddon, but I can see why people hate it. I think there was a guy, Maximilian Dude, obviously he's a huge deal on the YouTube fighting scene. I think the issue I think a lot of people have with Armageddon, especially gets a worse thing nowadays, is a lot of fighting games, it's the super highly competitive people that kind of really love those kind of things. And honestly, competitively, Mortal Kombat Armageddon is by far the worst, right? The 3D era as a whole was really bad with the like competitive scene and stuff like that, but obviously Armageddon, you had to create a fighter and stuff like that, and that just broke the game in a very major way, to where even, you know, competitive, or I mean even casual fans like me could see that, you know, even when I was a kid. Whereas I feel like a lot of time most people don't know about like hit stun or combos or frame data or any of that kind of stuff that, like, you know, people didn't know about that kind of stuff back in the day that, you know, people go on and on about nowadays and kind of act like it's still like a normal thing in, you know, the fighting game scene. And it's a lot more of a big deal, you know, the competitive scene that once used to be and stuff like that. But, you know, obviously, like, the competitive scene hates Armageddon and stuff like that, even though they had like online Armageddon for a while. I think it was the first one to have online. I don't think Deception had online mode. Which, back in the PS2 era days, I mean, that was a really big deal. I mean, not that many people could even play that kind of stuff. But either way, it was really cool, I think. But I don't know. I think that just Armageddon, you know, it kind of irritates me just how bad. Like, I think there are times when people, like, they look at things and it's like they don't like certain aspects, then like a lot of other aspects become negative. And the reason why I brought up Maximilian Dude, because he said that like Armageddon was just like a thrown together game, and it was the asset dump of the Mortal Kombat series, and like that kind of really rubbed me the wrong way, because I always look at it in the same way as like Trilogy or the Tekken Tag tournaments, right? Like Tekken Tag tournament, that's like essentially like the celebration of the franchise up to that point. So the first one was obviously the first 3 games. They had like almost, I think pretty much, other than Gon, the Dragon, and like Tekken 3, I think they had literally every single character and 1 or 2 new ones that were added as well in that game. You know, and obviously some of the mini games and stuff like that. And then Tekken Tag Tournament 2, even though it didn't do as well, obviously that was kind of a celebration of the whole series at that point. I think Tekken 6 was the last game that came out before that. And, you know, it had like everybody. It even brought back characters that you would never think would even come back, like Angel from Tekken 2. and stuff like that. And I think Tiger Jackson, who was just like a different skin for Eddie Gordo, it was just like a disco guy or something like that. He came back, I think even as his own character. So, but you know, it's just a celebration of the stuff, and that's kind of how Mortal Kombat Trilogy was. Trilogy was the ultimate celebration. They got like every single character from the original trilogy, and then they got like add some extras like, you know, MK1, Kano, and Raiden and stuff like that for the PS2 the PS1 versions, I mean to say, and it was awesome. But I wouldn't call that the asset dump. You know, like Deception, it was the celebration of the 3D era. So yeah, they're gonna reuse all the costumes and stuff like that, and you know, of the characters and stuff that they had already. And I don't know, that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not gonna lie. I got to be careful with that, because I mean, the last time I played with Reptile, I fell through like the floor, so that could easily happen with Smoke here. Here, let's save actually. And I don't know, like I think because people didn't like rightfully so, like I said, it was a very glitchy game and stuff like that. I don't know how easily exploitable it was for the average person if you're not looking online for like combos and stuff like that to exploit and stuff. But it was a lot glitchier than the other 3D era games, and honestly, people make a big deal about, you know, having to reuse fighting styles for certain characters. Like, yeah, obviously there was some mixing in between, but like people act like that's like half the game, or like, you know, 20 of the characters share the same fighting styles and stuff like that, or special moves. That's not the case at all, and it's just kind of annoying to see people overblow things like that in Armageddon and stuff like that, just to kind of, you know, try and either fit their narrative, or because, you know, obviously they're soured on, you know, certain aspects of the game, so they kind of say that like other aspects are also bad just because of it and stuff like that, you know, looking for reasons almost to complain about extra things in the game. I don't know, I just remember my brother, he was like, wow, I'm surprised, because he thinks Armageddon is like the best in the series, and I don't agree with his reasoning. My favorite is Deception, probably followed by like Shaolin Monks or MK9 or something like that, but his whole reason is, well, you can play as every character in the game, and like, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. But I should say every character in the franchise up to that point, and that's a pretty big deal. However, I don't really think that makes a game, and I think honestly most people agree with me on that point. But I don't know, I remember, I feel like, because these were like, even though they said they would work on like Mortal Kombat games, you know, no Mortal Kombat game had less than 2 years of development time, and that's probably true to a degree. But I feel like there was a period of time where it felt like they were coming out with like a Mortal Kombat game every year. Like that was even their initiative, actually, that they were trying to do. It was like, hey, you know, around this time was a 3-day era. It was like, hey, Midway's kind of going under, so if we're going to like get our reputation back up and get money and back up and stuff like that, we have to release big franchises every single year. Mortal Kombat was kind of like the thing that was, you know, helping them stay afloat, really, when you think about it, around this time. Obviously, it was at its lowest popularity ever, and so people say other outside influences and stuff like that, like they were investing heavily in other franchises that failed or something like that. I don't really know the details, but obviously we had MK vs. DC Universe, and that was the last Midway game, and now we have NetherRealm Studios as a part of WB and all that sort of crazy stuff. But yeah, it was still kind of like a annual release thing almost. I think it was Deadly Alliance was 2002, and I think it was Deception was when they started trying to do it. It was like 2004, I believe. And then 2005 with Shaolin Monks, 2006 Armageddon, stuff like that. So if Armageddon had the treatment in which like they had like another year of development, oh man, I mean, I think that really could have been the best game. You know, I remember some guy, like I even said that one time, and some guy was like, what, no, it's still gonna be the same terrible game, this or that, the mechanics won't be refined. I'm just thinking to myself, what the fuck do you think they would do in that year? Like, obviously the extra year would have been to refine the mechanics, make things work, and ooh, I guess neither one of them are going for it, never mind. But like, obviously the whole point of having that extra year of development is just to refine what they already have and stuff like that, you know? And if you have every playable character ever, you know, up to that point included in the game, maybe they could have figured out a way, you know, add like an extra fighting style or something like that, or not have to reuse as many like strikes or moves or something like that. you know, they could have done that within a year. Maybe they could have added some more Mortal Kombat tracks or anything like that, but I wouldn't want that year to even be just like adding more to what's already there, but just kind of refining the gameplay. And, you know, making it not as glitchy and all that other stuff, the main combat gameplay. And, I think it could have been the best game. Although I think also, as cool as it was at the time, I think Create a Fighter would have had to... I think that would have just... It would have been better if that just was not, like, included. Like, it was really awesome for the time, especially, and they had so many customization options. It was so awesome to create your own character with your own moves, and honestly, they were pretty overpowered, but, hey, I mean, I'd hope that they're overpowered and stuff like that, you know? I mean, I created them and stuff. But, I think that... Oh my god. I swear I did not plan that. That was the perfect camera angles. You're welcome, fellas. Oh my goodness, that was perfect. I don't know, hopefully this doesn't get the video demonetized or something, or reported or whatever, but geez, I don't even know why I was talking about that. Booty got me distracted. Oh yeah, right, Create a Fighter, I think, like, as cool as it was, I think it would have just been better without it, you know, gameplay mechanic wise. And plus, I mean, you could only create one character per profile, and obviously there's 8 profiles you can put on the game at that point, and you know, each profile allows for one character, but I think the idea was it was just they wanted each person to have one specific character, and I don't know, I hated how they gave us all those options, and you can only create one character technically at a time, but I mean, it was cool. I think if you bought stuff on like one profile, then it would be unlocked for Create a Fighter, and then, you know, on the other ones, you know, any other profile that wanted to create a fighter, which was cool, so. But, yeah, I love all the side modes in Mortal Kombat 3D era, puzzle combat, motor combat, chess combat. And I'm not alone, you know, there's so many people that would just play those side modes alone because they were just so great. And conquest mode, obviously, you know. Once again, I think it's just in the... Bring it back to the Armageddon just shit campaign. Like, they said they changed Armageddon's conquest mode to try and capitalize on Shaolin Monks' campaign. And it was just a copycat of it. Like, no, dude. That's what I mean. Like, people like to drive their own narratives on things and just say, like... You know, and I have a tendency to do it myself. I'll be honest with you on that, you know. Not my narrative, but just kind of like my thought process. You know, in which, like, I'll explain things and how I believe it. But, like, there's a lot of people that just think that, like... You know, I feel like that was just a natural evolution and stuff like that. Because, like, Deception, for as much as I love it, why would you have a Mortal Kombat game where you run around but you don't really fight people in the main board? And I think Armageddon kind of rectified that problem. I wish it would have been, like, a combination of the two. And, like I said, too much time has already passed. Like, we're never going to get, like, that combination of, like, a Deception, RPG elements, and Armageddon, you know, free roam fighting people and stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. A lot of people were really hoping with that, with MK11 and stuff like that, with the Crypt. And I don't know, I mean, the Crypt was kind of cool, but at the same time, like, the secrets aspects and discovering it was really awesome. That is, there's no way that I can, you know, undersell that point. But the whole, like, thing where you have to deal with, like, things attacking you and the traps, like, when I'm just trying to get from, like, point A to point B, yes, I think you could do fast travel, but at the same time, man, it's just like, if I just want to buy stuff and see what I'm buying and get and stuff like that, I don't want to go through that whole shit. And there's, like, the areas with those weird bugs that set you on fire and crap, and there are times where you have to put your blindfold on, you know, Kenshi's blindfold on to see specific things you have to unlock, but there's the chance that, like, I think meat will just attack you and blow your head up or whatever by surprise and stuff like that. And it's really cool the first time you do it, but then it just gets super irritating that I have to, like, worry about that kind of crap. You know what I mean? I don't know, like, it just would have been better if instead of, like, that the Crypt mode being like that, they just had, like, a separate mode or whatever that you could do where it was like an actual adventure mode and RPG elements, and it was kind of cool. You got to play as the descendant of Apep, which is a really nice reference to You know, deception. Like I said, I mean, a lot of games, it feels like they don't have as many references and Easter eggs and stuff like that like they used to. But I mean, just putting that in, I mean, that's an awesome Easter egg. Although, of course, because it's Mortal Kombat, the characters are like practically, they're props at this point. You know, I think they kind of stopped like with the whole characters kind of stay stagnant. They don't really grow, or when they do, it's just kind of like a weird change, like changing Sub-Zero into Scorpion or something like that. I think they did in MK1. It's just weird stuff, but the characters don't really progress anymore, and that was an issue in Armageddon too. Like, I feel like you had all those, every character ever, and like the characters, Scorpion was kind of cool because, you know, like he found his family again after Armageddon, although they kind of like had him where like he had to go and find Quan Chi because he just kidnapped his kid again for like no reason. But like, honestly, like, it just felt like that should have been a game where like everybody had their perfect ideal ending, and that was like rushed. That's what they should have had like another year to kind of go off of and fix and stuff like that too. You know, the ultimate end of their stories, their character arcs. What are these characters fighting for? What are their motivations? What is it that their final act, as you know, the all, you know, powerful ruler of the realms would be? And I feel like they really shit the bed on that. Which, you know, some of it, like characters like Jarek, I mean, I think that his ending is just funny with the weird fatalities on them all, and using the spine rip on Sub-Zero, and I think torso rip on Johnny Cage because he became the master of fatalities. Like, that's stupid funny, so I kind of like that stuff. But, yeah, for the most part, they were pretty terrible. So Armageddon, if they had an extra year of development, I think they could have actually done something a lot better with it, and hopefully refine the mechanics. It could have been the best, but once again, I think people jump down its throat a lot more than it's needed, and kind of don't give it credit in certain areas, or they give credit in other games for these areas and not mine it, but then they'll like shit on Armageddon for it because once again, it's kind of just like they're following the trends or what they think, you know, will get them the most brownie points or stuff like that. But I don't know, I'll probably complain about that stuff again in my Armageddon video, but that's going to be about all for this episode here, folks. We just kind of have to get past this whole area here, and we just got to break all these evil statues, use our Fist of Ruin, which I think is just an awesome ability name and stuff like that, although we're not actually using our fist here. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out next week's episode on Fighting Friday, where we're of course going to try and do the Living Forest. Like I said, I feel like this is going to break at some point, but we'll keep going until it does. And thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Above all, also, please remember to have a nice day.